Why is this always happening to me? Always the same thing, again and again and again. And I tried everything. I tried all the visualizations I could do. I prayed. I transformed. I brought it to my therapist. I brought it to magician and to my shaman and everything. And again, the same thing. Oh. Well, you know that? I do. So, here is hope. Give up any hope that would ever be different. Give up any hope that in your life that would ever be better. Give it up. So, okay, how is that hope? Giving up all the hope? It is because in giving up hope for change, there's finally peace. There's an acceptance, deep acceptance of what is. And I'm not talking about a resignation, or kind of a frustrated acceptance of, well, it's not going to change anyway, so I'm gonna better accept it. That's not a true acceptance. That's kind of, that's a cold acceptance. A true acceptance is when you really are okay with that pattern not having ever to change. And if you're there, then there is space. There is space for your patterning to just be where it is. To just be as it is. And in that space there is a breathing. Whereas when you're still fighting it and trying to change the pattern, that it takes away your breath. When the patterning, let's say the patterning is a particular structure, right? A particular formation that always happens to me. When you're in the mode of trying to change that formation, trying to put some power, spiritual or practical or whichever, some power to change the patterning, you may move it a bit so it doesn't exactly happen the same way, but the patterning is still there. It will still happen. Or maybe one block gets moved through your effort or through your discipline of doing things different, but as soon as that falls off, it just goes back into its same shape. Whereas when there is this space, then the structuring of the patterning can dissolve. And that's a process. But it's like a non-doing process. It's a process that happens from the inside of the patterns. Because deep inside of exactly that patterning that always happens to you, guess who lives there? God. He lives in everything, you know? So he lives in your, in the midst, in the deep inner core of your patterning. Unrecognizable from the structure and the pressure of the patterning. Recognizable if you let go and you become space, then that space moves into the patterns, and the patterns slowly dissolve. Means they become more fluid, they become more flexible, they breathe. So it's a changing of your patterning, but it's in a natural way. It doesn't come from this, I don't want this, from that pressure. The pattern won't change. It will, in fact, become more rigid. But from that space that can only come through surrender, through letting go, and through loving acceptance of what is. And through that, an organic change takes place. It's more like how a plant changes over years. You don't look at a plant and then it's different. It's a process. It's an organic unfoldment, just like our body grew up in a natural way. And it's in that way that a deep change of your patternings happens. But not commanded by your will, or by your not wanting your pattern, but it's kind of the pattern gets loved into it. Because you are being loved in the midst of it. And there's something else. takes place. And it is that your patterning starts coming into a whole other function. So it may be the same patterning that repeats itself, but it doesn't serve just the purpose of this little ego that recreates, that like keeps rolling inside of the same and the same and the same and the same. But the pathway of the patterning becomes serving the greater context. It starts serving something that is bigger than you. And believe it or not, exactly your pattern, exactly that patterning that you hated so much, from inside of it, the meaning reveals. The meaning of it becomes revealed to you. And that's not a mental meaning that you put on top of it to justify or something, rationalize. It's a meaning that comes from the heart, and that comes from deeper than that comes from your being. And your being, your true nature, starts working through your patterning. That's moving through those rigid pathways. And then those pathways become something else that you can't see when you're in it, and that you can't see when you're in resistance of it. You can only see it after surrender. So it's not like you see the bigger picture and then say, oh, that's better, so I surrender. It doesn't work like that. It just doesn't. You surrender, which is the absolute acceptance, the absolute embrace of your patterning, just as it is. And through that surrender, the meaning arises. It's a little bit like, when you die and you see this movie of your life, and it's all clear. It's absolutely clear. There's no more doubt, because you see everything from the true perspective. You don't see it from the perspective that you have made up in your fixed attachment to your patterns. You see it from the greater perspective, from the greater context of how things really are. And then through your pathways, through your pattern, through your personality, through this form with all of its flaws and all of its, its good sides and its not nice sides, the same gets transmitted. Your being transmits through your patterns. And that can go that far that you don't even care much about this. Why does this always happen to me? It's happening. And while it's happening, revelation takes place. Awakening takes place. not the kind of awakening that is like outside your patterns. Oh, these are my patterns and I awaken to my being. But an awakening right inside your patterns, inside that situation. That is again that situation. Inside of that, you awaken to the truth. And it's perfect. It's divinely designed.